Hello and welcome students to this program. The topic chosen for the program is Fundamentals of Piagetian Developmental Psychology. The objectives set for the present session are to know about the historical background of Jean Piaget, to understand the meaning of cognitive development, to be familiar with the key concepts Piaget used in his cognitive developmental theory, to understand cognitive development stage-wise as given by Piaget. Jean Piaget was born on 9th of August 1896 in Switzerland. His father, Arthur Piaget, was a professor of medieval literature. His mother, Rebecca Jackson, was intelligent and energetic, but Jean found her a bit neurotic. He was a talented scholar. He amazed the world by his first scientific paper on albino sparrow, published at just the age of 10. By his 21st birthday, he had published 20 scientific papers on mollusks. He studied at the University of Neuchâtel, from where he graduated in 1916 at the age of 20 and received his doctorate of zoology at the age of 22. In 1919, he became interested in psychology. He was first interested in Freudian theories and joined Freud's psychoanalytical institution at Vienna to learn psychoanalysis. However, it was while he was studying in Sorbonne that he began his studies on cognitive development. Piaget was interested in how children arrive at their answers when asked questions. Piaget married Valentine in 1923. He had 2 daughters and a son. He used each of his children for naturalistic observation to unreveal the mysteries of cognitive development. Piaget spent 50 years studying children while holding various positions in different institutions. Piaget died at the age of 84 on 17th of September 1980 in Geneva, Switzerland. Fundamentals of Piagetian Developmental Psychology. Dear students, cognitive development is the umbrella term for our learning skills. Our ability to process information, reason, remember, and relate. Cognitive development means our development of thought process. These thought processes include problem solving, remembering, and our decision making. It refers to the mental process of perception, memory, judgment, and reasoning. It was once believed that infants lack the ability to think or form complex ideas and remained without cognition until they learned language. But now we know that babies are aware of their surroundings and interested in exploring from time they are born. Cognitive development of children has been studied in a variety of ways. The oldest is through intelligence tests such as the widely used Stanford-Binet Intelligence Coefficient Test, first adopted for use in the United States by psychologist Levi Sterman in 1916. In contrast to the emphasis placed on child's native abilities by intelligence testing, learning theory grew out of work by behaviorist researchers such as John Watson and B.F. Skinner, who argued that children are completely malleable. These theories focus on the role of environment in shaping the intelligence of children, especially on a child's ability to learn by having certain behaviors rewarded and others discouraged. The most well-known and influential theory of cognitive development is that of French psychologist Jean Piaget. Piaget's theory, first published in 1952, grew out of decades of extensive observation of children, including his own, in their natural environments. Before discussing the theory in detail, let us be familiar with the key terms used by Piaget in his theory, that is, schema, adaptation, accommodation, assimilation, and equilibration. First, schema. These are the groups of similar actions or thoughts that are used repeatedly in response to the environment. A schema describes both the mental and physical actions involved in understanding and knowing. Schema are categories of knowledge that help us to interpret, understand the world. In Piaget's view, a schema includes both a category of knowledge and the process of obtaining that knowledge. As experience happens, this new information is used to modify, add to, or change previously existing schemas. For example, a child may have a schema about a type of an animal, such as a dog, if the child's sole experience has been with small dogs. A child might believe that all dogs are small, furry, and have 4 legs. Suppose then that the child encounters a very large dog. The child will take in this new information, modifying the previous existing schema to include this new information. Jean Piaget viewed cognitive development as a process of adaptation to the world. This happens through assimilation and accommodation. Assimilation. When a child responds to a new event in a way that is consistent with an existing schema, it is called assimilation. For example, an infant may assimilate a new teddy bear into their putting things in their mouth schema and use their reflex to make the teddy bear go into their mouth. Number 2, accommodation. When a child either modifies an existing schema or forms entirely new schema to deal with a new object or situation. For example, an infant may have to open his mouth wider than usual to accommodate to the teddy bear's paw. Now, equilibration. Piaget believed that all children try to strike a balance between assimilation and accommodation, which is achieved through a mechanism Piaget calls equilibration. As children progress through stages of cognitive development, it is important to maintain a balance between applying previous knowledge or using existing schema, that is assimilation, and changing behavior to account for new knowledge or entirely new schemas, that is accommodation. Piaget has given the description of cognitive development into 4 stages. Number 1, sensory motor stage. Number 2, pre-operational stage. Number 3, concrete operational stage. And number 4, formal operational stage. Singer and Robinson in 1997 explain that these stages unfold over time and all children will pass through them all in order to achieve an adult level of intellectual functioning. Now, sensory motor stage, which starts from birth to 2 years of age. This stage is characterized by the absence of language and is limited to direct sensory and motor interaction between the environment. This stage has been broken down into 6 sub-stages. First stage, from birth to 1 month of age. Each child is born with inherited reflexes that they use to gain knowledge and understand about their environment. For example, reflexes including grasping and sucking. Second stage, from 1 to 4 months of age. Children repeat behaviors that happen unexpectedly because of their reflexes. For example, a child's finger comes in contact with mouth and child starts sucking on it. If the sensation is pleasurable to the child, then the child will attempt to recreate the behavior. Infants use their initial reflexes, that is grasping and sucking, to explore their environment and create schemas. Once the child begins to create schemas, they use accommodation and assimilation to become progressively adapted to the world. Third substage, from 5 to 8 months of age. Children have an experience with an external stimulus that they find pleasurable, so they try to recreate that experience. For example, a child accidentally hits any toy or a mobile above the crib and likes to watch it spin. When it stops, the child begins to grab at the object to make it spin again. A habit of spinning the mobile in its crib may be created in the child, but he is still trying to find out methods to reach the mobile in order to get it to spin in the way that he finds pleasurable. Fourth stage, from 8 to 12 months. At this stage, behavior will be displayed for a reason rather than by chance. They begin to understand that their actions can cause a reaction. They also begin to develop the concept of object permanence, which is the realization that objects continue to exist when removed from one's sight. For example, if the baby wants a rattle which is under a blanket, the baby, unlike earlier stages, will move the blanket to get the rattle. Fifth substage, from 12 to 18 months of age. Child performs various actions deliberately with some variation. For example, a baby drums on a pot with a wooden spoon, then drums on floor and then on table and so on. From 18 to 24 months. Child begins to build mental symbols and start to participate in pretend play. For example, if a child is mixing ingredients with the spoon is missing, he uses other objects to replace the spoon. These 6 stages represent the approximate growth a child undergoes during sensory motor stage from birth to 2 years of age. Second stage is the pre-operational stage, starting from 2 years to 7 years of age. While stepping into this stage, the child begins to replace direct actions in the form of sensory or motor exploration with symbols. Emergence of symbolic thought, the ability to use arbitrary symbols such as words to represent concepts is the main characteristic of this stage. This stage can be further divided into 2 substages. Substage first, pre-conceptual stage from 2 to 4 years of age. Now the children are able to create, understand and use symbols to represent actions, people or places that are not present. This phenomenon Piaget termed as symbolic function. This shows the developing memory and imagination in them. They demonstrate symbolic, creative plays in which they pretend that one object is another. For example, pencil is a rocket or pretending as a bird. Their language use becomes more mature by the end of 19th month, and their vocabulary is up to 50 words. Children at this stage are inverted talkers. They even keep talking with their toys. Language adds the ability of naming objects, persons around the child. However, mistakes occur in identification. For example, they call all men as Papa. Animism, the belief in children that all things around them are alive, make them call even the non-living things around them by names. The children are quite egocentric during this stage. This is, they see things pretty much from just their own point of view. For example, the 3-year-old who covers his eyes and declares, "You can't see me." Thinking and reasoning of child at this stage is illogical. Piaget called this as transductive reasoning, which refers to the error that young children make in recognizing cause and effect relationship. An example would be a child saying that an orange is a ball, the reason being the round shape of orange. Then, phenomenalistic causality is another characteristic of this stage. This means a child thinks that two events are related to one another because they happen close in time, even though they are unrelated. For example, a child thinks that he is responsible for his brother's sickness, the reason being that he doesn't like his brother. Second substage, that is intuitive stage, from 4 to 7 years of age. This stage is dominated by child centrism in the form of their inability to conserve the substances and reverse the concepts. Lack of conservation. Conservation is the term used to refer to the realization that certain quantitative attributes of objects remain unchanged unless something is added to or taken away from them. This includes mass, number, area, and volume. All are capable of being conserved, but the child in this stage lacks this realization. For example, if a 4-year-old child is asked to choose between chocolate milk in a tall skinny glass and chocolate milk in a short fat glass, he will focus only on one of the dimensions of the glass and choose tall skinny glass, assuming that there is more milk in that than the short fat glass, even though there is far more in the latter. Lack of reversibility. Reversibility emerges when the child realizes that an action could be reversed. For example, if a child at pre-operational stage is asked the question that has he any brother, he will answer, yes, one. Ram is my brother. But if he is asked, has Ram any brother? The answer will be no. This shows that the child lacks the concept of reversibility. Third stage is the concrete operational stage, from 7 to 11 years of age. In this stage, the child not only uses symbols representationally, but can manipulate those symbols logically. It is the development of child's ability to decenter that marks him as having moved to next stage. By decentration, we mean the ability of the child to focus on more than one dimension, such as length and breadth, simultaneously. The conservation, both in terms of quantity and the number of objects and reversible thinking are the key features of this stage. Conservation is not fully mastered, which means child faces horizontal decalage. Egocentrism is gone. Abstraction in thinking is seen. The child is now able to deal with concepts and ideas that exist only in mental terms. Classification and seriation are some other achievements of this period. By classification, we mean that children acquire the skill that lead to the ability to describe things by terms of classes, numbers, and series. Seriation means that a child can now arrange similar objects in a series according to one quantified way in which they vary. For example, a child arranging her dolls by height in a form of seriation. Fourth stage is the formal operational stage, starting from 12 to 17 years of age. Piaget called this stage as the final stage of cognitive development, wherein major features of adult thought makes their appearance. Children in this stage can think abstractly. Now they can deal not only with real or concrete objects and events, but also with the possibilities, objects and events that can only be imagined. For example, in this stage, child not only discusses the world as it is, but can also discuss the world as it might become. This stage witnesses the development of 4 overlapping logical abilities in a child. These are: number 1, hypothetico-deductive thinking. It means the ability of a child to formulate the hypotheses and systematically test them to arrive at an answer to a problem. To illustrate, consider the example of a teenage boy who decided to surprise his mom and bake her some cookies. Unfortunately, the first batch didn't turn out so well. The cookies were burnt. In order to solve this problem, he mentally reviews the ingredients he used and the steps he took to bake the cookies. He considered the variables that typically caused cookies burn, such as omitting a key ingredient, an improper oven temperature, or leaving the cookies in the oven too long. Next, he imagined changing each individual variable in order to determine the most likely cause of the burnt cookies. And he subsequently decided what he needs to do differently. For instance, he may decide that the most likely cause of the burnt cookies was that he left them in the oven too long. So, for the next batch of cookies, he will set the timer for a shorter period of time after the second batch is finished. He will then evaluate if this solved the problem or whether he needs to change a different variable. Second is the inductive thinking. It means to move from the particular to the general, gathering together particular observations in the form of premises, then reasoning out a general conclusion from these particular premises is what we call as inductive thinking. For example, one crow is black, second crow is black, third crow is black, so all the crows must be black in color. Third, reflective thinking. The capacity for thinking about thinking that allows adolescents and adults to reason about their thought process and monitor them. For example, we have a proposition. Higher education should be open to all. Now, adolescent can frame an argument for or against the proposition. Fourth, interpropositional logic. The ability to judge the truth of logical relationship of the propositions. For example, proposition first, all cows are animals. Proposition second, all animals are blue. And the conclusion is, all cows are blue. So dear students, we conclude, cognitive development happens from one stage to another through interaction with the environment. Changes from stage to stage may occur abruptly, and kids will differ in how long they are in each stage. Cognitive development can only happen after genetically controlled biological growth occurs. Cognitive development leads to learning. The children can only learn certain things when they are at the right developmental stage. Environmental factors can influence but not direct development. Educators must plan a developmentally appropriate curriculum that enhances their students' logical and conceptual growth. Teachers must emphasize the critical role that experience or interaction with the surrounding environment play in student learning. Studies reveal that children often grasp ideas earlier than what Piaget found, and that development can, to some degree, be accelerated. Dear students, that was all about Piagetian cognitive development. Thanks for watching.